Hello and welcome. In this tutorial we're going to cover for and while loops, and I don't want to go into too much theory, so I'll just start with examples, and I think that's the best way to understand what's the purpose of each. So I'm going to create a variable L, which would be a list, and the list would contain, let's say, names. So I would just have Tim, Timmy, Mark, and let's say Alan. So we have four names, and we would like to print hello, and then plus we would like to print the name. Now, in the previous tutorial we saw that we can reference the element in the list like this. So for example, the 0th element is Tim, and if I run this, it would print out correctly. But if I want to print this for all names, I would have to copy paste this line and change the element. And maybe if I have like 2 or 3 names, or 4 or 5, if it's quite limited, then I can use this, but it gets messy if you append other names to this list. It would be difficult to track, and you have to add lines every time there's a new name. So instead, what you can do is you can create a for loop. And what a for loop would do is, for every name in L is our list, I would like to print hello plus every name. And every name is basically the value of the list is assigned to this variable every name. First of all, as you can see, this second line has been indented, and that's how basically Python knows that this line is part of the for loop above. If you have it at the same starting point, then you would get an error. So again, if this is the case, press the top button to indent it more in the middle, and then if you run, you will see that it would print hello plus the name of basically every single name in the list that we have. So if in the future here you have John, the script, you don't have to adjust anything in the script, the for loop would automatically pick that up. So this is the good part about the for loop. For example, what you could also use it for is, let's say that we have an empty list and we want to have 1,000 numbers in it, so 1, 2, 3 up to 1,000. If you do this manually, you can do it of course, but first of all it would take you a lot of time, and second of all you might make an error. So if you're in a rush, you might have a permutation 23, and instead of 24 you would have 42 or something like that. So, and that's again not the best way to do it. So what you can do is, for every number in range between 1 and 1001, L, so the list, dot append every number. So what happens here is, for every number in the range between 1 and up to, but not including 1001, and this is something that we also saw in the previous tutorial, so Python goes up to that value but does not include that one, what we want to do is to append that number to our list. So if we run this code and then we actually print our list, our new list with 1,000 values, this would be our output. So when there's quite a large output, you get this so-called squeeze text, and if you double click on it, as you can see it says double click to expand, you get your list with 1,000 numbers. And again, this is quite easy and fast to do with Python compared to doing it manually. Now the other thing that is very similar but a bit different, it can be used interchangeably with for loops, is the while loop. And it's personal preference, so whichever you like more, and based on the situation you might prefer one over the other. While loop is similar because it again loops through whatever you ask Python to, but based on given criteria. So let's say that we have a counter and our counter starts at 0. So what we could say is, while counter is less than 10, increase the counter by 1, and that we can do by creating a new variable counter, which is counter plus 1. So in this case, the first time it runs, it would be 0 plus 1, and that would be the new variable of counter. Then the second time it would run, it would be basically 1 plus 1, and the counter would have a value of 2. But let's say that we also want to print counter. So this is what it would look like. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then after that, well, it's no longer lower than 10, right? So at the moment it's 10, so the script stops. Now what if, for example, you have here a criteria, but you by mistake you have run a script that will never stop. For example, while true, that's what we want to do. And it would never stop because it would always be true. Well, if you want to cancel such script, you have to use Control plus C. And that means you break out of this loop, and as you can see here, the description is keyboard interrupt. And this is the basics of while and for loops. And again, if you find it difficult to understand it, take a bit more time and don't be too harsh on yourself. It is probably normal. This is really the basics, but this is something that you're going to use quite a lot along the way. Thank you for following the tutorial, and if you have any questions or comments, leave it in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. If you want to follow other Python related tutorials, feel free to click the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.